Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some Tales from Tech Support. Our first story today comes to us from, hold on, it gets better. We heard you were the admin, shut down everything. Let's jump right in. When COVID hit and the shutdown happened, the entire company scrambled to prepare to go fully remote by the end of one business day. In the midst of the chaos, we needed three major things. 1. A cloud-based storage and sharing system. 2. A web video and conferencing solution. 3. A miracle, since our outsourced IT company deemed 1 and 2 out of scope and was going to charge us our firstborn children and king-size Snickers to get it done, at the earliest, 3 months. Let's back up real fast. I had been working at the organization for 1 month at this time. I was originally hired as a SharePoint admin. However, my boss at the time didn't really know how SharePoint worked, or even how it was going to benefit the company. She just had it at her last job and thought this company needed it too, which in hindsight, she was right. My first week on the job was spent waiting on the IT company to grant my MS account SharePoint admin access. By Monday, they still didn't have it done. I forwarded the ticket number to my boss. She calls up our account manager and rips into them. In less than a minute, I have SP admin access. However, that's not all I had. They actually granted me global access over the entire domain and account. I brought this up to my boss, who said, "Okay, but do you have access to SharePoint now?" Which I say, "Yeah, but now I have," and she cuts me off and says, "Good, then start working on SharePoint." I just back out of her office and save the fight for another day. Back to the main timeline. I mentioned in an emergency operations meeting that we have the needed solutions already with SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. Granted, no one understands how to use those, but they are there for us to use. Bad idea. Everyone looks at me with either pure bliss or confusion. The CEO of the company goes, "Let him train the entire company by the end of the day, and we will all go home." So I do just that. 8 hours of training large groups over SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. 200 plus employees, and I am the only in-house IT we have to pull this off. But it gets done, and we were all in our homes. A month goes by, and I'm just doing my SharePoint thing, and I get a Teams call from the CEO? Well, this is either good or bad. The following conversation between me, the CEO, the COO, and the president. CEO: "Hello, we're wondering if you have a moment to help us with something." "Of course, what can I assist you all with?" A very uncomfortable pause. I don't know if they knew their cameras were on, mine was as well, but I could tell that they were not happy with what was about to be said. CEO: "We're having to make some small layoffs." Me internally: "Well, it was fun while it lasted." CEO: "But don't worry, you're safe. We need you here, especially after you got us all remote." Me internally: "Hold up." CEO: "We just got off the phone with IT company and we wanted them to start turning off accounts and shutting down emails. They said they could do it, but it would be a 2-week turnaround. We need it all done today. They mentioned you have admin access. Is that true?" Yeah, I got it a few weeks ago." COO: "Shut down everything." "I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?" President: "We need you to pause all emails, Teams chat, doc sharing, everything. We also need everyone locked out of their accounts while we start making phone calls. The only people who need access is us three and you." Okay, I can do that. But what do we do when people start asking when they are locked out? CEO: "We have asked that our IT company send out an email to everyone in an hour saying there are technical difficulties and to please be patient." Okay, so after I shut everything off, what do I do next? COO: "Wait for one of us to call you. We will have a list to you on whose accounts need to be permanently turned off." Okay, I can do that. President: "Also, who's your boss?" I said my boss's name. President: "Okay, you will report to me now until further notice." So I turn off everything, chill at home and play video games for 2 hours before I get another Teams call from President. President: "Okay, I'm sending you a list now." Got it. I'll work on the accounts, then turn everything back on. President: "Good deal. Oh, and one more thing. You are no longer SharePoint admin. You are now our systems administrator." Okay. Of what systems? President: "All of them." Okay, but how many systems is that? President: "I don't know. Whatever software we use for any department, you are the admin of it. I suggest getting with the different departments and finding out what they use and go from there. Okay, that might take a while. President, once you're done, report to me on what you find, as well as the cost of everything. Okay, excuse me if this is too soon to ask, but will this come with any compensation? President, yeah, it's too soon. End call. I hope this pandemic isn't too long. I have a feeling this won't be fun. I remember thinking to myself, I had no team. No one that was left in the company had any IT knowledge that would be useful to me. We ended up ending our contract with the old IT firm and went with the better one, but they were short-staffed all the time, and I was pretty much left in charge of the entire IT infrastructure and management of the company as a one-man show. When 2 months prior, I was just supposed to be making and managing SharePoint sites. Rest in peace. Oh my, OP mentioned in the comments for this one that they didn't get a raise at all. They got a title promotion to IT manager, but that's it. What a load of crap. If you're the last person in a company with IT experience who knows how to run all the things, then you walk right into your boss's office with a resignation paper that says, here, you can have this, or you can give me a raise. But there's other places that will pay me much better for doing all the work that you're asking me to do. Do me a quick favor and take a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're actually not subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Psychological Fig 444. Arrogant coworker gets impatient and tries to do my job. Let's jump right in. A few years ago, I was working IT support and data analysis at a smallish 50-people company. I had gotten the job thanks to my father being the head of IT, and had spent the last few years trying to prove myself, and I generally liked my job, was good at it, and most people respected me. Even though I was young and looked younger, I had worked there longer than about half of the company, because we recently expanded to double the number of employees. I was in charge of assigning laptops among other things, and I was the first line of support if something techie went wrong. One of the newer employees was a multilingual sales guy I'll call Marty. Marty had a high opinion of himself and his own capabilities, including with technology. Instead of asking for help or resources from the IT team, he would rather look up problems himself and try to solve them, sometimes using free software downloads from random websites. You may think that this is good, less for me to worry about, but I liked helping people with their tech issues, and he had a knack for making things worse. He somehow managed to get a virus on his company MacBook, some tool that also happened to divert all his network activity to a random IP, a huge security issue. One day, Marty had a laptop problem that he couldn't solve. He didn't like it, but I told him he could either take it to an Apple store himself, it was under warranty, or I could reset it but keep his files. He took a day to think about it and decided to let me reset his MacBook. I had informed him that I would have to perform a full backup, and this could take several hours depending on how many files he had. So I started the backup process in the morning and tried to go about the rest of my job. But Marty decided to park himself on a chair between me and my desk neighbor and watch the backup. It made me uncomfortable to have Marty in my personal space and sharing my desk with me. I told him he could still do a lot of his work via his phone, as other salespeople do when I work on their laptops, and in response, he asked if he could use my phone charger. I tried politely hinting at him to go find somewhere else to sit, but he didn't get it. So I straight up told him he was in my personal space and making me uncomfortable, and to go find somewhere else to be, and I'll inform him when the migration is done in a few hours. The backup took longer than expected due to the number of files Marty had. Marty had decided rather than sitting at his own desk, he still wanted to hover nearby and was on his phone in the IT lounge area and making the people who work in that area slightly uncomfortable. The backup completed after lunch, but I had a meeting to attend with a VP before it finished. I rarely had meetings, and this one wasn't long, about half an hour. When I got back to my desk after the meeting to check the status of Marty's laptop, I saw that it was behaving unexpectedly, net booting. I asked my desk's neighbor Victor if he had done this, and he told me no, but Marty had been at my desk while I was away at the meeting. My mind quickly filled in the blanks of what must have happened while I was away from my desk for just half an hour. Impatient Marty had come and wiped his hard drive, as according to what he had read online, I had done the full backup because it was policy and just in case, but I knew his problem would probably be solved if I reinstalled the OS but kept his files, and it would take less time too. But he had wiped everything, and also managed somehow to wipe the recovery partition too. This man is dangerous, and I knew thanks to a mistake I made months before on a different laptop that this job had gone from almost done to taking up to 12 more hours to complete. I was pissed that he somehow thought that he could just walk all over my work. I was pissed that I would now have to work on this overnight because I don't want to keep him away from his laptop for more than a day. I angrily confirmed with Marty what he had done and informed him that he had really messed up the laptop and I definitely wasn't going to get it up and running today. But I was still angry. So I told my dad, the head of IT, what had happened, and he agreed that Marty had crossed a line. But I was still angry, and so I told Marty's boss, the head of sales, what he had done. Marty had also talked to her, and she convinced me to lend him a spare laptop to use until I could finish fixing his. I confirmed with my dad that I would give him the oldest, clunkiest spare laptop on hand, and he agreed. That made me feel a little better. Like, at least Marty would be a little inconvenienced by what he had done. Marty had majorly inconvenienced me. I took the amnesiac MacBook home and fixed it overnight, downloaded macOS, and installed via USB. I restored Marty's files. I gave him back the laptop the next day. I was still pretty pissed at Marty, but he insisted he needed to talk with me privately. He took me into a room to basically say sorry and ask me not to tell on him next time. I said whatever and left the meeting room because I just wanted him out of my face. When he gave me back the old loaner laptop, he told me he liked it better than his shiny new one and asked if he could keep using it. This slightly angered me further because it was supposed to be a punishment. He wasn't supposed to like it and had to tell him no because, company policy, I'm not giving him an out-of-warranty laptop. I'm normally an easygoing, forgiving person, but Marty thinking that he was entitled to do my job for me? Unacceptable. Now, OP read a bunch of the comments underneath this one that were talking about Marty and how he didn't really need to work on Marty's stuff at home. OP said this: I do agree with many of the commenters that Marty did not deserve any of my time at home. And now, in today's post-pandemic environment, I certainly wouldn't suggest anybody do the same. Back then, taking occasional work home in exchange for being able to leave early or arrive late or take half days whenever you want seemed like a pretty good deal. I was definitely making compensation and perks to make it worthwhile. Back then, just a few years ago, the turn off your phone and email outside of work hours was a bit more of a radical idea than it is now. I think there has been positive change in general work culture in a short time. I hope it can continue despite pushback from managers who want the control that they used to have. I honestly think in this case that if Marty brought this on himself, which he did, and he made you do so much extra work that I wouldn't have advocated for him to take a loaner home. I would have said to Marty, hey, you're gonna lose a little bit of your sales commission over the next couple of days because I need to get all this work done on your laptop now, and I'm not doing it on off-time hours. Our last story today comes to us from Chippenstein. I want all our DLs to be internal use only. Let's jump right in. One of our clients started getting quite a bit of spam recently, more so than usual, but luckily the really bad type of spam, so it's really obvious even to the more not tech literate staff. The really bad thing, however, is that the spam wasn't going to individual users, but to their distribution lists. They have quite a few, most are internal use only, but some need to receive outside reports. One such distribution list they have is an all staff where every other distribution list is added. For whatever historical reasons, this was not set to be internal only from the start. I blame my old colleague for that, and also the client who probably agreed to leave it as such. They didn't really have a proper CTO back then, and it was a bit hectic. So you can imagine when one phishing email suddenly goes to over 500 users is a bad thing. Cue the actual dialogue. I get a ticket from Big Boss Man's personal assistant to let us know of the email. I proceed with my usual search and purge from the portal and then ask, hey personal assistant, do you guys really need this all staff to be open to public? It would be much safer to make this internal use only. Now I don't get a reply for 5 days. The week passes, and next week a ticket comes in, follow up to original. Hey IT help desk, I have spoken with CEO, please make all our distribution lists internal only. Now, like I said before, most distribution lists already are private, but some absolutely need to be public for very important reasons and reports from third parties. One specific distribution list belonged to a certain big money-making department would be devastated if even one of their results doesn't come through, and they deal with about 30 to 50 a minute. The catch: I was on lunch and one of our newer colleagues picked this up. In terms of the task required, he definitely has the knowledge and access to do it, but as always, it's not that cut and dry. By pure chance, I'm coming back in the office and passing by my new colleague and see the ticket he's dealing with and to bring him a coffee. I felt generous that day and got the office a coffee from the nice place on the corner. Lo and behold, I nearly dropped the tray and shouted stop. Poor guy flinched like I was going to throw the coffee on his crotch. He had just started making the distribution list private and was just about to do the very important department one. Phew, you have no idea how I went from being chilly, coming from outside, to sweating like a Finn in a sauna. I apologized to my guy for shouting and explained what he was just about to do. Cue his face going pale. I asked him if he didn't mind assigning the ticket to me, as I was dealing with it last week and I can put him on as a follower. So now to reply. Personal assistant, are you sure about that? Department X would literally implode, and manager there would not only chew my head off, but CEOs too, and you know he will. It would mean huge money lost in profits for just a few minutes of lost emails alone. 2 minutes later, from personal assistant, hold on a minute, let me check with CEO and manager. 10 minutes later, I get a reply from CTO in the ticket chain. Hey OP, ignore that please. Make all staff private for now, as well as distribution list X and Y. Those don't get anything external. Please leave A, B, and C public, and put a note to say they are never to be made private, lest we don't want to get paid that month. This wasn't meant as a threat, she meant it as the loss of profits would cripple them a bit kind of joke. I personally know CTO, and she has a good sense of humor, along with a good head on her shoulders. And so I do, and make the description say that on the distribution list. If you make this distribution list private, we don't get paid by client. Hopefully this will help the future generations at the company not make the mistake my colleague was about to. That's it for now. I've got quite a few more interesting ones I'm hoping to find time this weekend to format and remember, but also starting a new job next week. So I look forward to amusing you with stories from there at some point. Do you ever think back to something you did, something that could be just incredibly small, but if you didn't do it, it would have had a major effect on your life, your work life, or even your personal life? That's what happened in this case, because if OP hadn't brought back a coffee for that other person in the office, they wouldn't have seen them working on that ticket, and wow, it would have been a crap show. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.